What's up everyone, welcome once again to the channel. It's your boy Luis, and today we're gonna be talking about one of the juiciest, nicest rumors that have been doing the rounds of the pageant world for the past couple of weeks. I will say this is not even like fresh, but people have been talking about it, especially for the past couple of days. And that is, of course, the rumored comeback of Michelle Dee at Miss Grand Philippines. Supposedly, our girl is trying to represent the Philippines one more time on the international stage, this time at Miss Grand. And although Michelle Dee hasn't really confirmed anything herself, I think that she has been playful with the idea of potentially representing the country once again. She has been asked in a couple of interviews, in a couple of TV appearances, and she never says upfront that yes, she is joining another competition, but she also never really denies it. She just kind of plays with it. And if I'm being honest, this is kind of like the typical move for beauty queens. At least in the Philippines, it's a very common thing. They will tease a comeback even though they know they're not making a comeback, but just to get people talking about it. They're just being playful, and that's perfectly fine. Michelle is a very established and appreciated beauty queen in the country, as she got the opportunity to represent the Philippines already at two of the biggest pageants in the world. Every single time she gave a good fight, gave a good performance, and made her countrymen proud in the process. So without further ado, let's get into it. What are the pros and cons of Michelle Dee making a comeback at Miss Grand Philippines? The very first pro, I think that it's a very common thing, and you would expect that it will be simply an increase in visibility for Michelle. Of course, we all know that pageants are like the Olympics in the Philippines. People just simply love it. They follow the girls. They really support the girls. So as a consequence of Michelle joining once again, there will be almost automatically an increase in her profile, because people will be checking on her, what she's doing, what she's planning, and how she is basically faring in the competition, right? But we also shouldn't neglect the fact that if Michelle was to make a comeback, there's a little bit of a redemption story, similar to what I was telling you guys about Atiza Manalo when she joined Miss Universe Philippines this time around. Michelle Dee did an incredible job at Miss World. I believe she ended within the top 12 in her year. Later on, when she made a comeback to Miss Universe Philippines, she was one of the really hyped candidates in that year. And going back to that first time that she competed at Miss Universe Philippines, she ended as a first runner-up, still with a lot of people feeling like she should have been the one. When she joined a second time and ultimately won the right to represent the Philippines at Miss Universe, she unleashed what I have mentioned before is one of the most incredible pageant strategies of any recent years. I mean, personally, since I became a pageant fan, Michelle Dee has had hands down the best pageant rollout that I've ever witnessed, right? So because of that, just the quality that she was able to deliver at Miss Universe, there's a lot of people, myself included, to be honest, that felt like Michelle truly deserved to make the top 5 at Miss Universe, and that the things that went down, it just didn't seem so transparent, and to a certain extent there's this feeling that this girl deserved more. So of course, if Michelle was to make a comeback once again to the national pageant scene, and if as a consequence of that she ended up winning the right to represent the Philippines at Miss Grand, it will be kind of a redemption story in the sense that she will be able to prove herself once again and show what she's able to offer, and hopefully, crossing fingers, she'd be able to pull a victory for the Philippines. There's a discussion to be had about that, and I will mention some of those things in the cons part of this video, but definitely on the brighter, optimistic side, Michelle will potentially get her redemption story. Not that she needs it, to be honest. She's already well loved and respected as she is. Another one of the pros of having Michelle making a comeback, this time at Miss Grand Philippines, it will be the fact that Michelle really knows how to give a show. She knows how to pick a gown, she knows how to deliver, a performance on stage. She is a great communicator. I feel like she is more of a visual person, as she is heavily involved in, the material that she presents, whether it is through the videos, the photos, everything. She is very, very much hands-on in the process, and you can tell that she is a very creative person. Another thing that she also is a showgirl, and that is very fitting for Miss Grand, as we all know that Miss Grand is a show. It's purely for entertainment. We have the traditional competitions of beauty pageants. There is supposedly some level of advocacy, but at its core, in reality, Miss Grand International is a show. It's all about entertainment, and I feel like Michelle will be great at it, as she is an entertainer herself. Let's talk about some of the cons, because as I said, not everything is sunshine and everything is bright. There's also a couple of things that will be going against Michelle if she decided to make a comeback. I mean, mostly at Miss Grand Philippines, but I feel like at this point it kind of applies to any comeback that she might be considering in the world of pageantry. And the first con is that pageantry traditionally has been considered a stepping stone for the beauty queens, and I will argue that at this point in time in her career, pageantry is no longer a stepping stone for Michelle. Pageants are supposed to give a platform to the up-and-coming girls who really have something to prove, who maybe have yet to build a name for themselves, or who perhaps are hoping to boost their careers, whether it is in being an entrepreneur, being a model, in show business, whatever it is. Michelle is already a well-established personality figure in the pageant world. She is a recognized actress. She's a model. She recently has become a singer. She's an entrepreneur. She is a lot of many other things. So in a way, I feel like the Michelle Dee legacy is already solid enough for her to not have to join a competition once again. Of course, there's always the part like whether she wants to do it for fun, like whether she really enjoys it, just the process of being in a competition, in a pageant. But I don't feel like there is a need for Michelle to do this anymore, as in her career, her milestones, her accomplishments just speak for themselves, right? The other con that I would like to highlight is that as of today, I don't know, it may be like 5 years, 10 years from now, but as of today, we can easily say that Miss World and Miss Universe are considered to be the biggest pageants in the world. Michelle, as I mentioned, she ended up within the top 12 at Miss World. She competed at Miss Universe, ended up within the top 10, won one of the big awards at Miss Universe, I forget the name, the Voice for Change or for Good award, and a lot of people felt like she actually did deserve a spot within the top 5, even though she didn't get it. But what I'm trying to say here is that Michelle already competed in two of the biggest, not the biggest, but the two biggest pageants in the world, Miss World and Miss Universe. By association, making a comeback and joining another competition would be a downgrade. I feel like there is no way up going forward, because sure, when she joined Miss World, she did great, and then she decided to join Miss Universe. That's already a risk because she's risking her legacy at Miss World, but ultimately Miss Universe is ranked higher than Miss World for most people, so it's a step up in a way. But when you already competed at Miss Universe and ended with such a brilliant track record, I will say that risking it all once again to come back to Grand, it's a little bit of a step down, and it's a big risk, because what if you don't do as well as you did previously at Miss World and Miss Universe? So there's a little bit of a silver lining here that Michelle and her team will have to consider if these rumors were actually true and she is really considering to make a comeback. So actually that goes hand in hand with my next point, which was precisely to kind of predict and try to control the outcome of the competition if she was to join Miss Grand Philippines and if eventually she was to compete at Miss Grand International. To begin with, there is no guarantee that she will be the winner in a national level, so that already would be kind of a letdown if she goes from a national title holder to not even winning the national competition once again. And same thing, if she goes internationally, we already know that the politics at Miss Grand are, the politics are politicking, and that the results ultimately depend of Nawat. So is this a risk that Michelle is willing to take? I don't know. Maybe she knows better than I do. And talking about placements and the outcome of the competition, we also have to acknowledge that in a way, and I don't mean this in any shady way, type or form, but Michelle is not necessarily the Miss Grand prototype. I mean, when I think of a Miss Grand contestant, it's always the really, really tall girls with the big, wavy, voluminous hair, with the curvy figure, like very voluminous bodies, loud personalities. They create borderline characters that they play on stage. Michelle Dee is actually quite the opposite of all of that. So I don't know if her personality, her brand, her vibe will necessarily go with the Miss Grand prototype. Maybe in a national level it's okay, because I don't feel like the girls here in the Philippines, when they're still competing in a national level, they necessarily overdo it that much. But inevitably, if she was to represent the Philippines at Miss Grand International, she would have to adjust and kind of prioritize what they're looking for, rather than protecting the brand that she has been able to build for herself up until this point. Depending on how you look at it, this could be an opportunity for Michelle to become a disruptor and kind of like break the mold of what Miss Grand has been providing for the past couple of years in terms of delegates and their vibe. But also she will be opening the door to be discarded as like the girl that doesn't necessarily fit the mold and simply be shadowed in the competition by girls who are doing more in terms of just being loud and being out there. I don't know about you guys, but I did mention this before, that Michelle Dee has become my favorite beauty queen that has ever come out of the new era of Miss Universe Philippines. And when I mean new era, I mean like post Binibining Pilipinas. I really like the way that, as I mentioned, she's such a visual person. She really has a strategy when she competes. She's very smart. She has excellent comm skills. She's just overall an interesting candidate and an interesting woman to follow. So by no means I will be like upset or disappointed if Michelle actually was planning to make a comeback and compete at Miss Grand Philippines. I actually think that she will deliver a killer performance, but I do think that she would have to kind of analyze and weigh the pros and cons of such decision, just to make sure that she is not like tarnishing her legacy or affecting her almost flawless track record. Again, she doesn't necessarily always have to finish in the top 5 or win a competition to just prove that she's a quality contestant, and I feel like the consensus amongst pageant fans is that Michelle is very strong. So I don't know, I have mixed emotions about a comeback if she's going for Miss Grand Philippines, but ultimately we also have to respect her wishes. If she just simply wants to make a comeback because she enjoys competing and she loves pageants and whatnot, even though she's already a celebrity, has a big career, and she is already above all of this, well, we have to respect, we have to support, and laban lang Michelle if this is true.